What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So Microsoft continues their big multi-platform push with another game being announced, and it seems like the floodgates are about to open on Nintendo's side for that as well, but we'll go over all of that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Sony shutting down one of their more interesting programs, I'll say, when it comes to PlayStation Stars, and of course, it's making people wonder what's next for some of the more loyalty-based programs with their customers. And we also have new details around Mario Kart World as we're a few weeks out from release alongside of the Switch 2, some stuff behind the scenes when it comes to development, and the fact that it actually started out as a Switch 1 title. All of that and more. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members for the channel do get Newswave early. If you would like to learn more about that, click the join button or the link in the description down below. And we're going to start today with Xbox Game Pass games for the month of May. This is Wave 2, and there's actually some pretty good stuff in here. Now again, Xbox, they have like standard Game Pass, Ultimate stuff. I'm just going to go down the list here. You can see right below each one which tier it's being put into there. Okay, so let's start at the top here. This is over on Xbox Wire, with available now being Monster Train 2, Cloud, PC, and Xbox Series X and S. Today, we also have Creatures of Ava, that's Xbox Series X and S. Stalker 2, that's for Xbox Game Pass Standard, Xbox Series X and S. Tales of Kenzaro Zao, Cloud, PC, and Xbox Series X and S. That's through EA Play. Moving to May 27th, we have Tom Clancy's The Division 2, Cloud, Console, and PC. On May 28th, we have 2 T, Cloud, PC, and Xbox Series X and S. May 29th, Metaphor ReFantazio, Cloud, PC, and Xbox Series X and S, as well as Spray Paint Simulator, Cloud, PC, and Xbox Series X and S. Moving up to June 3rd, Crypt Custodian, Cloud, Console, and PC, as well as Symphonia, Cloud, Console, and PC. So there's a bunch of other games they have that'll be going into Xbox Cloud Gaming, which some big ones: Brutal Legend, Costume Quest 2, Neon Abyss, Rare Replay, SteamWorld Dig 2, Sunset Overdrive, to name a few. So this is a pretty good, week and a half, 2 weeks of Game Pass titles, like seeing Metaphor going in, as well as even The Division 2, which is still a game that people do play pretty consistently online. Not a bad lineup here to close out the month of May and then start working into June. Also, it looks like Lies of P is actually getting difficulty modes added, which we can see this posted up. This is over on VGC saying Lies of P getting difficulty options to make the Souls-like more accessible. So we'll be offering 3 levels of difficulty for the base game and the expansion, and this did bring into question or the conversation around Souls games and if they should have difficulty settings. Now, I've always kind of gone with the idea of what the developer wants when it comes to a game like this is what you should go with, right? That's kind of it. That's their vision. You just sort of play what they have in front of you or not. Now, I will say Lies of P is one of the Souls games that's more linear. It's not like Elden Ring. Elden Ring can pretty much get away with just being a Souls game while still being fairly accessible, because if you run into a boss that you're not ready for and you can't beat, you can go off and do something else very easily. You can just walk in another direction and find a whole new adventure and then come back later. So there's no real sticking point technically in Elden Ring. Even the final boss, you can just get super overpowered before you attempt it again by just exploring the world. So in this case, even the developers say, hey, look, we're trying to make it so it is open to more people to try the game, and that means, yes, to sell more copies. It's just kind of the way it is. Not every company out there is FromSoft when it comes to these Souls-like and just sells tens of millions of copies without too much issue. Oh, and we might have to pour some cold water on the idea of a PlayStation State of Play or showcase here in May, although we're towards the end of the month at this point, and really it's been no discussion around it. Well, we can see this is posted up. This is over on Push Square saying the PlayStation Showcase State of Play event for May appears increasingly unlikely, and that's after many different, I will say, reliable insiders have sort of mentioned the idea that, yeah, they won't really have much until after summer. Like, some are saying September. I did see Nate even mention he hasn't really heard much about it, and then some others on forums like Reset Era, or who have at least put out good information in the past saying, not really hearing much, guys. So, hey, look, Death Stranding 2 is coming up, Ghost of Yotei, and Marathon. Okay, so maybe September, I guess, is what we'll look towards, but I gotta say, no, no state of play or showcase for this month like we would typically expect, or even into June. I guess we're once again looking towards third parties and actually Microsoft. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Microsoft and PlayStation. As I mentioned, the state of play or a showcase, maybe that's not happening in the next 10 days or so. But going into June, there will be a bunch of third parties, I'm sure, there to put their games on PlayStation, which does include Microsoft now, of course. We've seen the push, and we're actually going to see some of the results here later on in the show that's been at least given to us in sales figures in the US. But let's take a look at the latest announcement. This we can see posted up. This is on the official Ninja Theory account, saying Senua's Saga Hellblade 2 is coming to PlayStation 5 this summer with some exciting new features. These features will also be available at the same time as a free update for players on Xbox Series X, S, Xbox PC, and Steam. It is interesting they say Xbox PC again. That, I think, is going to be very relevant here in the next year or two as we go towards next generation. But anyway, we look forward to sharing more details soon. So this will be PlayStation 5 Pro enhanced, according to Sony's page, as you would expect here. And I guess one of the things you would also expect is a 60 FPS mode and maybe some other stuff that they're going to work into this enhanced edition. We're still waiting to hear exactly all the details broken down around that. But it's not too shocking to hear that, yes, Hellblade 2 is going to PlayStation, and this just continues the trend that that Microsoft has set out, in that, yeah, a lot of our games we're going to repackage in maybe an enhanced edition like this, and then sell again on other platforms, as PlayStation has shown that, yeah, Microsoft's games sell very, very well there. We've seen the pre-order charts where Microsoft's just outright taking over sometimes, and Sony, who... Again, we're talking about no state of play or showcase something. Their cadence of releases, I mean, it's slowing down. It's fallen behind Microsoft, I'd say, where they're just moving everything they can over. Why not? Whether it's brand new day one releases like out of Bethesda with Doom the Dark Ages recently, or Forza Horizon 5 going over from their back catalog. It's just something they're going to be doing here as they go along. And the question has been, wow, we're seeing a lot of announcements for PlayStation. What about the Switch 2? That is announced now, right? Well, this was actually part of the Verge article covering this announcement, where they say at the bottom, this is from Tom Warren, I revealed last year that Hellblade 2 was under consideration for a PS5 release alongside other titles like Gears of War, Halo Combat Evolved, and Microsoft Flight Simulator. Microsoft's also working on some Xbox ports for Nintendo Switch 2, which I expect we'll hear about soon. Well, I mean, it's probably next month. I mean, we're not that far out, clearly, of Microsoft with their Xbox event here in the first week or so of June. So in that case, we're a few weeks out from it. But also, we're probably heading towards, shocking, I know, a Nintendo Direct to happen next month as well. And while I think Microsoft could just start flashing the Switch 2 logo at their own event as they make different game announcements, it would be interesting to see them show up in that Nintendo Direct, wouldn't it? Whether it's Phil Spencer all of a sudden appearing, or they just have a transition over and you hear the Nintendo Direct voice that introduces Halo Combat Evolved is coming to or Legendary Shooter is coming to the Nintendo Switch 2 this fall or something. There's Master Chief on a Switch 2. So it's going to be some strange looking stuff, I think, here in the next few weeks as we get into June. But it's not shocking to hear that, yeah, we're going to see a bunch of Xbox stuff go over to the Switch 2 as well. Microsoft, I'm sure, wants to take advantage of that platform as much as possible. Very much so like they're taking advantage of the PlayStation, which actually, let's see how it's doing there. Next up, let's talk about the Circana sales report. This covers the month of April, and that means that like Oblivion Remastered would be in there and a few others. But this is an interesting one, again, to see how Microsoft plans that they've put into motion now when it comes to just trying to get more money out of even some of their older titles works on PlayStation. Well, some of the sales results we can see here. This is from Matt Piscatella, and he actually put up the chart here. These are the top 20. We'll go over like the top 10 or so, starting at the top with Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered. Now, Matt made a point that in like the first month or so this game was on sale, it like made more money than the first 14 or 15 months when the game originally came out back in 2006. Yeah, Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered did very, very well when it came out, which we already saw some of the Steam concurrent player counts. I know people like live and die by that, but I mean, those numbers were good as well. So yes, a big win there for Virtuos and for Bethesda and, of course, Microsoft. But then look at number 2, Forza Horizon 5. Remember, it came out on the PlayStation 5, goes from number 42 to number 2, just like that. So the top 2 games here, technically from Microsoft on the Circana sales report. Right below that, MLB The Show 25, then Minecraft, technically Microsoft there. Assassin's Creed Shadows falls from 1 down to 5, but then right below it, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, once again, Microsoft, going from 118 to number 6, just from the PlayStation 5 release. Then from there, Black Ops 6, again, Microsoft, WWE 2K25, NBA 2K25, and then rounding out the top 10 with PGA Tour 2K25. Now, that's with the software side. Moving over to the hardware, Matt Piscatella says PlayStation 5 dollar sales declined 5% in April compared to a year ago, but the platform once again led the hardware market in both dollar and unit sales. Switch hardware spending fell 37% in April versus YA, and yeah, that's not shocking to see that it fell 37% for the Switch hardware, considering the Switch 2 is right around the corner. Most people are probably holding off with either pre-orders in hand or maybe waiting to get a walk-in when it comes out. The Xbox Series, though, grew 8%. That is, I think that caught a lot of people off guard. They're like, whoa, we hear about Microsoft and their Xbox constantly declining, but here it is actually jumping a bit, 8%. Not a massive number, but it is growth at a time where you typically see consoles continue to decline, like we see with PlayStation and obviously like Nintendo, because I think it's almost 10 years old or something now. But in this instance, it is possible that just in general, with the number of releases Microsoft has, along with Game Pass, people are just like, hey, I might as well get an Xbox with Game Pass and just be able to experience all these titles and then some of the upcoming ones. So I don't think it's going to be enough right now to move the needle and like completely revive the Xbox console. I think that's kind of run its course with this generation, but it does make you think with the number of games, the cadence of releases Microsoft has currently, what's going to happen next generation? Could they really roll into that period where Sony's kind of between generations working to build up the PS6 and Microsoft's just releasing their games there too, to where their revenue grows so much that they actually take over the number 1 spot there in terms of just money generated? It's very possible, but at least for now, they seem to be executing their plan very, very well, just based on the money they're bringing in and their placement on the chart. So we'll see how this continues to work out for them, especially when they start announcing those Switch 2 ports. Next up, let's talk about PlayStation Stars, as Sony is moving to shutter the service. And I'll admit, it's a service that at times I felt like Sony forgot about, because for a while there, Stars was just down. It was days and days, weeks even, where the app just didn't work at all. And then eventually it came back, and there wasn't a great explanation for why it was gone other than, oh, wait, we kind of forgot about PlayStation Stars. That's my theory on it anyway. But now it looks like they're moving away from it. We can see this posted up. This is over on PlayStation blog, where they say, since launching the program, that being PlayStation Stars, we've learned a lot from evaluating the types of activities our players respond best to, and as a company, we are always evolving with player and industry trends. Through this evaluation, we have decided to refocus our efforts and will be winding down the current version of PlayStation Stars. We'll continue to evaluate our key findings from this program and are looking into ways to build upon these learnings. Starting today, PlayStation Stars will no longer accept new members for this version of the program. Current Stars members can still earn digital collectibles, points, and level up their status until July 23rd, 2025. About a 2-month buffer there, just so everyone's on the same page. Then this version of the PlayStation Stars program will fully end on November 2nd, 2026. Okay, I know there's some concern out there if you're like me and you have the Jim Ryan bobblehead. Don't worry, you could still look at your collectibles after the shutdown occurs. At least that's what they're saying right now. So yes, you could still check out Jim Ryan. It was a bobblehead and everything there. To me, though, looking at PlayStation Stars, it did feel very disconnected from the ecosystem for the most part, because it was never on the PlayStation 5, and that just seemed weird to me. Like, you feel like if you built it in to where it was easily accessible, even there on your welcome tab, and maybe even alongside of the trophies, or even interacted a bit more right then and there when you got a trophy, maybe people would be more inclined to look into it. I feel like there were many people who didn't even really know what it was. And to me, the biggest thing, I know the digital collectibles aspect was, I'm sure, a thing for some people. It just looked so basic. I mean, they had like the trophy case, and it looked just like a static image that then the trophies were placed on top of. And it didn't really feel like there was a lot of effort Okay, Sony didn't really feel like they bought into the whole thing, so I don't really know why they would expect other people to. So to me, the best part about this was just being able to redeem points that you would get for just credits. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and redeem these points and get 15 or 20 bucks just like that. Or in some cases, you would be able to turn it around for a full game that they'd have up, and it'd be specific ones. But I think at one point, Stellar Blade may have been up there. So that at least was what I mostly looked into. Digital collectibles and stuff, those are kind of like, I got a few of them, and I was like, okay, that's enough for me. Let me just go ahead and cash these points in now for credits that I can use on games. Here's hoping Sony has something better in mind going forward, because I think the idea is good, it's correct, and I'd like to see more ingenuity around the trophy system or a reward system for players, since it's kind of become pretty static in general. So I'd like to see them think outside the box a bit more, and also then tie it to their main box, the system, either the PlayStation 5 or the PlayStation 6 in the future. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Mario Kart World, which of course is out alongside of the Switch 2 on June 5th. Now, there was an Ask a Developer interview that took place over on Nintendo's website, and there was some interesting insight, I'll say, to the development of the game, which it is always something to keep in mind and keep an eye out for when Nintendo has their developers talk about the games, because it's such an interesting perspective to see how they approach some of this stuff. And turns out Mario Kart World was originally set up to be on the Switch 1. Now, we can see this is posted up, and there's a lot to go over here, so we're just going to go through it, and I just want to get the full context if we can. We were thinking about what to do for the next Mario Kart game, even during the development of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. We began prototyping in March 2017. It was at the end of that year when we officially started working on it as a project. I felt that in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, we were able to perfect the formula that we've been following in the series up to that point, where players race on individual courses. That's why this time we wanted the gameplay to involve players driving around a large world, and we began creating a world map like this. When we were developing for the Switch system, it was difficult for us to incorporate everything we wanted, so we were always conscious of what we were giving up in return. We discussed things like toning down the visuals, lowering the resolution, and even considered dropping the frame rate to 30 FPS in some cases. That is absolutely disgusting though for Mario Kart. I'm sure if you play in at least Mario Kart Deluxe, if they showed that thing at 30, whew, that would have been a crazy damn line. Say it was a tough situation. And then they were asked, well, what did you cut down on? They kind of stopped and went, well, nothing. We worked on it while kicking the can down the road in terms of deciding what to give up on. So at some point we knew it was going to get messy. But as we decided to release the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass, we thought that would give us a bit more time to continue development. That's when the conversation of moving into the Switch 2 system came up, and this suddenly opened up a bunch of possibilities on what we could do. It was truly a ray of hope. Yeah, that's right. They basically said, get that disgusting Switch away from now. It is funny to think that they were trying to at least come up with a Mario Kart idea with the current Switch hardware back, as they say, at the end of 2017. But the hardware itself limited them. And this is something that Furukawa had mentioned to investors as what's the big movement, what's the big innovation for the Switch 2? And his explanation was, it gives our developers more freedom for the ideas they have. And when you see this and the way they describe how they want to do things like changing time of day, big open area, big open world map, 24 racers, and then still keeping the fidelity and the frame rate where they want it to be, yes, that does open up a lot of possibilities for developers. So hearing this, then seeing what Furukawa says, it does make me a bit more excited as to what these first-party Nintendo games are not only going to look like, but what they'll be able to do at this point. Seeing Donkey Kong Bonanza, where you're just destroying everything around you with physics-based objects and destruction, that's a really cool idea. What will the next 3D Zelda game be like? What's the idea there, right? Can they bring back some of the older IPs that maybe they have new ideas with but wouldn't run on the current Switch? So a lot of really cool things there, but again, interesting to see some insight into the Mario Kart World development and how we almost had it, I guess, on the original Switch. But whew, how would you have felt if they showed it and it was 30 FPS? That would have been... that wouldn't have gone over great. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, have you used PlayStation Stars at all? Okay, 49% are just trying to figure out what PlayStation Stars is exactly. It was Sony's rewards program. It's where the Jim Ryan, again, bobblehead came from. 29% say no. Hey, 21% say yes. That's not bad, actually, to see that. I just see many people in the comments who are like, yeah, that's great. You redeem your points and you get $5 or $10 back or something. And again, yeah, that was a great way to save money. Even though you had to spend money kind of to make money there, I get it, but it was just cash back, basically. That was the biggest reason to really use it. Although you could do some of the missions and get like points and stuff, so it was a fun way to have just extra trophies, I mean, you didn't really get a trophy, but like different tasks to then get stuff that you can actually use for other things. Currency, sure, but like the idea is good. The execution was absolutely horrendous. So maybe they go back to the drawing board with at least the core idea and come up with something new that can once again be more integrated with the PlayStation console itself. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Inquisitive Mind saying, you don't have to be a real fan to know it won't be full price for long. I'm just going to wait for a sale. And that's perfectly fine. In fact, I feel like that's what's going to happen with more and more of these $80 games, unless they are absolute must-haves for many people. So GTA 6 at $80, that's a must-have for many people out there, I'm sure. But you can see some games come out and it's 80 and you're like, yeah, I'll wait. And that's the biggest thing. I think you're going to see many of these games have like the slow burn in terms of sales. Like they'll get there eventually in terms of maybe they have 5 million they want to sell, but it sells 1 million out of the gate at $80. Well, okay, yeah, maybe when it's $40, it'll finally crawl its way up to that 5 million mark. So I think there is something to say about sales velocity and giving some of that up for $10 more to 80, because now people are looking at Borderlands 4. They just immediately think it's $80. So if it shows up as 70, do you feel like you're getting one over on Take-Two then? Because for a while it was like, if these games are 70, not 60, I'm not buying it. Now it has gone up to, if this thing is 80, no way. And then it's 70, it's like, okay, whew, that was close. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card. Or maybe you want to hear more about Sony's live service push and how it's just been sputtering along for quite some time, and it seemed to get even worse last week. I'll leave that right below it. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.